Hello, everyone. This week's parsha is Parshat Nasso, and that's amazing because last year we actually began giving Divrei Torah over Parshat Nasso. This is what started this whole project. So we should congratulate ourselves, but we'll get to that in the end. First, let's share a quick idea I heard from Rav Bernstein. So we see this week's parsha begins with Vaydaber Hashem Moshe Lemor Nasso et Rosh Bnei Gershon Gamhem Levei Avotam Lemishpachotam. Right. So Hashem spoke to Moses saying, "Take a census of the sons of Gershon as well, according to their father's household, according to their families." Now, the lesson of Gamhem, Rav Bernstein draws our attention to it, and he says, "Look at Rashi. Nasso et Rosh Bnei Gershon Gamhem, just as I commanded you regarding the sons of Kehat, to see how many have reached the age of service, of avodah, of divine service in the temple." Now, why is this so interesting? Because why Gamhem? This is the beginning of the week's parsha. Haven't we started counting Bnei Gershon? And not only that, there are three sons of Levi. We actually discussed this last year. Please refer to last year's Dvar Torah. But it says, so Bnei Gershon are actually the eldest of Levi's sons. There's Gershon, and then Kahat, and then Merari. But Rashi is pointing out that the reason why the Torah says Gamhem is because Gershon was not counted first. Kahat was counted first. Now that seems strange. Isn't Gershon the eldest? Shouldn't they be counted first? The parsha begins with Gershon. So what's going on? So Bernstein points out something very, very delicate and very beautiful. So if we go to last week's parsha, in the 7th Aliyah, Shvi'i, or chapter 4, verse 1, we see, "Vaydaber Hashem Moshe ve'Aaron lemor, Nasso et Rosh Bnei Kehat, mitoch Bnei Levi lemishpachotam levei avotam." Let's give a pasuk. So why is Kehat counted first? Zot avodat Bnei Kehat bo'el moed kodesh hakodashim. This is the work of the sons of Kehat in the tent of meeting, the most holy. So you see, Kahat had the most important job. That is to say, they were carrying the Oel Moed, right? They were counting the Mishkan, and as a result, they needed to be counted first because they had the most important job. And even though there is, of course, the Torah ideal of starting with the eldest and showing our older siblings kavod, since Kahat had the most important job, he must be counted first. Rav Bernstein points out a very important, very subtle lesson from this. That is to say, who gets counted first? The eldest, which is a Torah ideal, or the person with the most chashuv job, the person with the most important job, the Kodesh HaKodashim? Says the Torah, the Kodesh HaKodashim. Their Kedusha is above that of Gershon, so Kahat gets carried first, even if they're younger. However, says the Torah, just because that's true, doesn't mean we can't deal with this in a proper way. That is to say, we're not going to start this week's parsha with Kahat. We can count Kahat first. We'll just count them at the end of last week's parsha to show things in its proper order. However, in order to show respect for Gershon, we'll count him at the beginning of this week's parsha, so he doesn't feel slighted. Now that's a very important message because often we have two conflicting values in front of us. Right? We have value A, we have value B, and they're both important. Now the thing is, sometimes you need to sacrifice the one value for the sake of the other. Right? Because one value is more important now. What do you do? How do you treat with that other value? So it says the Torah, just because you say you need to highlight value B, doesn't mean you should allow value A to be discarded and scorned. Now, for example, let's just say you're sitting in a bus, right? And you see this elderly gentleman get up. Now there's a Torah commandment, right? In front of an elderly person, you should get up, you should rise, you should give him your spot. It's actually written in Israeli buses. Now, there are two ways to go about this. You could either get up and look at everyone else with scorn, right? Or if you're the one standing up and there's a young person sitting in front of you, you could either tell him roughly, "Get up! Don't you see this old man? What's wrong with you?" Right? Or you could do it pleasantly. You can either be a role model and just do it yourself, and just do it kindly and be quiet about it, and just let the old man sit down. Or when you speak to this young gentleman, there's a way of suggesting that he get up, so that A, you're fulfilling the mitzvah, the value of allowing this older man to sit down, while also treating this younger person with respect, which is also a Torah value. So you see that the Torah here is trying to tell us, just because you might have one value that might trump another value, doesn't mean that other value gets discarded and flushed down the toilet. That's a very important message. Okay, so it's been a year. We've gone through every parsha, Baruch Hashem. That's a huge zchut for us all. Now what do we do? Do we keep going on? How does the Torah see this? So I actually heard this from Rav Bernstein. I heard this at the end of learning a full year with him. We went through the third parak of Bava Kama, right, about 10 daf. It was an incredible experience. It was a real schut how learning from him. But it was also a schut not only to get the information and just the regard for Torah, but it was also to show how your time is supposed to be used. That is to say, shiur officially was supposed to end at noon. Now, sometimes we went over. Frequently, we went over. We had too many questions, and Rav Bernstein wanted to go through his material. But sometimes we had less questions, so Rav Bernstein was able to get through his material more quickly. Sometimes we were finished at 11:57, 3 minutes early. Now, Rav Bernstein, being Rav Bernstein, 3 minutes is 3 minutes. So he saw that he was finished with his shiur. Look at the clock and be like, 3 minutes. And then he'd immediately launch into a different Torah, either about the Parsha, or about a Maisa, about a Gadol, some other kind of story, something to share, because with 3 minutes you can do many things, and why should you take away from the time allotted for Torah? You should fulfill every minute that you can. Which was important because then at the end of the year, once you have finished the parak of Bava Kama, what did he do? He came with treats and snacks, ended up sitting and chatting. Now, of course, there were obviously Divrei Torah shared, but at the end of the day, it was almost like a chill session. Now, this was puzzling. This is Rav Bernstein. We don't waste time. What kind of this? We're dedicating a whole shiur to just enjoying. So Rav Bernstein shared at this moment to show the appropriateness of this. He said this in the name of Rav Chaim Soloveitchik, Rav Chaim Brisker, great man, who called us back all the way to the beginning of Chumash. That is to say, when God was creating the world. And we take an example from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Because at the end of the day, we could hear, isn't it obvious when you're finished an accomplishment, you should take some time to appreciate it. Okay, maybe it is obvious, but it's much more wonderful to see that lesson in the Torah. And not only in the Torah, but also from God Himself. That's what happens. So we see in the third pasuk, Vayomer Elokim Yehior Vehior. The third pasuk in all of Chumash, Vayomer Elokim Yehior Vehior. Then what happened in the next pasuk Daled, Vayar Elokim et Or Kitov, and God saw that it was good. And we see this again, not on the second day. We see it 3 times in the third day. Vayar Elokim Kitov, once in verse 10, and then again in verse 12, Vayar Elokim Kitov. And then we see again in the 4th day, Vayar Elokim Kitov. That is in verse 18. So we see every time that God creates something, Vayar Elokim Kitov, and God saw that it was good. And the way Rav Chaim Soloveitchik explains this is as follows. God created something, and now there's an appropriate time to take a step back and to look at it and to relish your accomplishment, to really savor it and to really allow it to be internalized and to reflect on it and really appreciate what we've done. So that's a very important point at this moment. We've just accomplished something great. We've gone through a whole year of Chumash Shiurim. So this is a time to pat yourselves on the back for those of you who have been there right from the beginning, or those of you who have joined us midway. All the same, you've persevered. That's it's a big thing. You've really shown Kavod Torah, and Slachat you, and we'll see you next week. No need to pause too much.